Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show to V with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Argentina, the show of beach life, Mexico City, and so much more. Today's guest is the amazing Andres Portela. He is a brand ambassador for Sombra, traveling the United States talking about this amazing mezcal. Some time ago, I had the opportunity to interview the founder, Richard Betts, and it's great to see that this brand is still chugging along with more gusto than ever. So it's great sitting down to chat with him. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Andres Portela.
Yeah, I mean, I talk to crowds, and I've done even in Vegas one time. I had like huge screens and talking to like 30 people that never had a mezcal education before, and buyers and bartenders and waiters, people from the industry went there because they never had a mezcal and tequila class.
Yeah. So,
and I was like on a PowerPoint and showing pictures about agaves, and I had an hour and a half. I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, my dream. An hour and a half training. That was fantastic. Sometimes I always ask, how much time do I have? Oh, 30 minutes. Oh, right. That's not enough. I will have to go fast. So I really like to get deep into details and techniques, processes, and I like people to ask me questions that hopefully they ask me things that I don't know.
Yeah.
I actually like when they ask me things that I don't know, so I have to research them. Or like, wow, I never thought about that. You know.
I love those moments. Here was a moment for me. I was talking to David Suro, and he said, "Do you know that Cupriata can't grow from hijuelos? It has to be from seed." I'm like, what? It was one of the, like there's always just that one moment where someone that you respect and they're like, they've been doing this a long time. They say that one thing, you're like, oh shit.
Didn't know that, yeah.
Yeah. And then we're talking about Pichomel. I didn't know that there were smaller tepestates growing in Puebla. Just to nerd out for a second, right?
Uh-huh.
I had no idea until Jason told me.
And I think they mature younger, actually.
Right. Yeah. They're smaller. They're mature and hopefully under 25 years. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. They take less time, and the flavor profile is different.
It's so beautiful stuff.
I love it too, but it's not like a Oaxacan tepextate.
Right. A totally different thing. It's like, do you travel much in the States?
Sí.
So
all the time.
You been to Chicago?
I've been to Chicago, not for business. I've been to Chicago twice, and it's my favorite city.
I love Chicago,
actually.
But you've been
going next month.
Oh, really?
Luckily, it's RiotFest.
Oh, dude, are you gonna go see RiotFest? Wow, that's maybe I saw that coming because I forgot who's headlining this year though. Who's it?
Slayer,
okay.
Block Party.
Oh, they're doing all of Silent Alarm, right?
Yeah, I can't believe it. I'm gonna cry, man.
So this whole stage thing, we're talking about RiotFest, talking about Block Party. You on stage. Because this is what education is, right?
Yeah.
You said you like when people ask you questions, you're kind of doing that. Where does this background come from? So were you going to school for communications? Were you going to school for history? And you grew up in Argentina, yeah?
In Buenos Aires, capital city.
Oh, okay.
So actually, well, I'm number 5 of 6 brothers.
Yeah.
I mean, 3 brothers, 2 sisters. And they always educated me on music, actually, a lot. We are a big family, like Italian style, like it's a cliche in Argentina.
Mm-hmm.
And always loud, hugging, kissing, discussing, having people in. All of us were very sociable with like interaction and having people in, even to stay, like come stay with us, you know. And so my uncle, my aunt, they decided to put me into English classes because they saw that I was 8 years old, and they thought I was like really into music and English.
Yeah.
So I started studying English when I was a kid, and I wasn't brilliant at school at all.
Oh yeah.
Only in English.
Well, but think about how that's helping right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember always my teacher was like, Andres is going to open you doors all over if you speak English like this and blah blah blah, and like you should get into the hotel and restaurant business. And I was like, no, I like computers a lot at that time when I was a kid, and then I realized that wasn't my thing, and then I ended up in the service industry. So bartending, exactly.
In Argentina still?
Yeah, I moved. I'm 36 now, so I moved 8 years ago.
Yeah.
I started bartending, and they put me to floor manage and bar manage. So they got me out of the bar, and then concierge and guide touring and more that part of stuff. And then I decided that I had to go to Mexico. I wanted to go to Spain in one moment, but then I realized I wanted to be on a typical dream of the capital city.
Yeah.
Boy is like, oh, I'm tired of the city. I want to live on the beach.
Right.
So I moved to Puerto Vallarta. And I thought, I'm going for 2 years, working to improve my CV and living on the beach, living this dream. And after all, I see myself that I was doing really good, business-wise, and also had a lot of time off to keep traveling.
Yeah.
And I could go to Europe and also came to the States. Yeah.
I mean, you're right. That is a chapter in pretty much everybody's book. How can I just go travel around a bunch and spend some time on a beach, right?
Uh-huh.
But going back to the education thing, so one, I'm kind of curious, for the people that are in the hospitality industry, even brands, because normally that comes from being behind the bar or working at a distillery, whatever that may be. My dad and my mom were both in the industry, and I was like, why did I get into it? But for you, were your parents also in the industry or different kinds of?
No. My dad passed away when I was 2.
Oh, okay.
But my oldest brother, he was in the hotel industry. And that's why I started catching a little bit about this work and managing also. And but my other 2 brothers are DJs. They're actually professional producers and DJs.
Oh, that's killer.
So music was all the time in my house, and I could never play an instrument, but I'm a massive consumer of music. Like I'm a melomaniac.
Yeah. Not megalomaniac, right?
No.
Okay. That's a whole other kind of music thing. I think. Like Kanye West, I think, level of stuff.
Yeah.
So these days, what are you listening to? What are some things that are really appealing to you
these days?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up with a lot of heavy metal, actually.
You mentioned Slayer. I mean, if you're going to go see them headline a show, that's brilliant.
Yeah, I grew up with Megadeth, Skid Row. My first concert was at Skid Row when I was 13 years old.
I heard 18 in Life on the radio the other day, and I was like, it's been a long time since I heard some Skid Row.
Actually, funny story is that I got to meet Sebastian Bach and all the band. I got pictures when I was 13 years old, and that was a cool time. And
wasn't it a great time? Like, music is kind of a different deal then,
Yeah.
Megadeth, like Countdown to Extinction is, top 5 metal records of all time, easily. And I think that we kind of, I'm just a few years older than you, but that was still kind of our heyday when we're getting into music.
Yeah, I was a kid, but I was like getting all these CDs coming in, and the era of CDs coming in and listening and like getting all the lyrics. Also, I was crazy about learning English, but I grew up with also with The Cure and The Mission, all these 4AD label brands.
You did
bands.
Thank you. Pixies were on 4AD, right?
Yeah, Pixies were on 4AD. Belly, Lush, Cocteau Twins.
I haven't heard that in a long. I mean, I've got a stupid grin on my face because I haven't heard 4AD for so long because I haven't been back to those. The Pixies I listen to all the time. But really, really, what's interesting is that many of us who really love mezcal love music and art that way, because mezcal is more of a song or a painting than it is a product. So we're sipping. I want to sip the Sombra, like the flagship, here in a second, but it reminds me of analog. It reminds me of vinyl, right? And you talk about The Cure. It reminds
lo-fi.
Me of lo-fi. At times lo-fi. Sometimes it's even tinny, like Nine Inch Nails or something, right? So it's cool because it really takes on all these different kinds of personalities. So the move to Mexico, this is how I think we should do this. So let's sip this Espadín, and let's talk about your first experience with mezcal.
Well, my first experience was in when I got to Mexico 8 years ago. Well, a little bit more than 8 years ago, and the cliche of everybody when it comes into Mexico, let's have a mezcal with a worm and shoot it and have a beer because it's disgusting. You just clear your palate.
Right. Like don't taste it. It's the opposite of what you should be doing, right?
Exactly. And it was like, oh well, this is fun, but it's not so cool. You know, I mean, like I don't know if I want to drink this all the time.
Is this you said late 20s when you said 8 years ago?
Yeah,
28,
exactly.
29, something like that, right?
So then I started like working in the industry in Mexico and having mezcal cocktails, because in Vallarta it wasn't that big still.
Was there much mezcal there on the coast?
Right now there is.
But back then
not much. Right? No. Just a few tequilas also. I mean, everybody was drinking tequila, of course, but you know, the beach, piña coladas, margaritas, and all that stuff. Salud, I said, yeah.
I poured about twice as much. I was going to split it with you. But
I'm going.
No, but so it was not a thing yet, right? Like
it was not a thing.
Bubbling underground in a way.
So I was like, oh, this tastes good. Like, and I was liking the mezcal flavors. And then when I moved to Guadalajara, 3 years later, I was starting to get all these brands coming in and doing trainings. And I was like, what? Mezcal is all this? This is how it's made? This is the comparison between mezcal and tequila, industrial, artisanal. And I was like, nobody was paying attention. It was like, oh, we have another training, you know?
Yeah. Oh, even back. So they just fell on deaf ears in a sense, right? Like people weren't really paying attention.
Yeah, I think the mezcal boom was maybe like 6 years ago or something.
Yeah, I think you're about right.
And well, I mean, at least in Mexico or...
We took about 2 years to catch up, I would say, in the States. 1 to 2 years, yeah.
Yeah, so I was going crazy about, like, I liked bourbon, I liked gin, but I wasn't so hooked up on those spirits. Like, if I had to drink something, I would drink tequila, I would drink gin or bourbon. But then when I started drinking mezcal and getting to know everything about it, and no worm.
Yeah, right.
Unaged, no worm, and handcrafted, artisanal, high proofs that they tasted delicious, and how it's an upper spirit,
right.
and how it would interact with cocktails, or especially like drinking it neat, sipping it. I was going crazy, and I was floor manager of oyster bar in Guadalajara.
Oh yeah, which one? Is it still around?
Yeah, La Docena, it's called.
Okay.
It's a must, actually.
Yeah, because it sounds familiar, because there's always that one, right? That one oyster bar you gotta go to. So.
Exactly. Yeah, it's actually one of they have like 4 locations now, two in Guadalajara and 2 in Mexico City.
Oh wow.
They started in Guadalajara though, and so I was like, every time somebody would ask for mezcal, they would like call me and, hey, they want mezcal in this table, so we'll grab like 3-4 random bottles from the bar and explain the customers.
So you kind of became a mezcal sommelier.
Something like
right?
that, yeah.
Because that's kind of a thing, or, you know, if you want to call it a spirit whisperer, where you connect people to the spirits, which is one of my favorite things about mezcal, because everybody's different. Every mezcal is different, right? So it became something you probably were getting curious. Go to the source, you know, find out what it smells like, find out what it tastes like, but in different forms, right?
And besides, at those times, there wasn't much info on the web.
Yeah.
Now there is a lot. Can be misinformation sometimes.
Sure.
So I always say that about agave spirits, try to go to the source if you can.
Yeah.
And do your research, and don't believe everything I say. Like, build your own criteria about agave spirits. But then, after that, for example, I moved from La Docena to this boutique hotel in Tlaquepaque.
Okay.
Which I managed also, and I got to meet all the Fortaleza people with their tours.
Stefano was working there?
Yeah, Sisi and Mitch.
Stefano and Mitch, yeah, okay. Guillermo came in too?
Yeah, also, yeah, he had been there a couple of times too.
Have you ever met a cowboy? A cowboy, like vaquero? Have you ever met like a true cowboy? In Texas, we kind of got him.
Oh, yeah. In Mexico?
Yeah.
no, I don't think like a cowboy.
He
Well,
he feels like, you see what I'm getting at? Yeah, he
Yeah.
feels like a true cowboy without mustache and stuff.
Uh-huh.
Like have you heard of the Marlboro Man? In the States, there was always this guy smoking cigarettes with the cowboy hat from Marlboro cigarettes.
Uh-huh.
That's what he is. But so why I mentioned it is thinking about that kind of a guy. I want to go where he goes, you know. So you think about Portela and like, I got to go check this thing out. Just amazing personalities in the mix too.
Mm-hmm. So over there, we hosted the welcome parties, and so I got involved with all the people there, and so they took me also to their tours and the distilleries and everything, and then I was like, I got to go to Oaxaca. I can't
handle this anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when I was doing the tastings also and explaining differences between mezcal and tequila, people was like, "Oh my God, have you ever been to Oaxaca? How do you know all of this?" And like,
Yeah.
no, I not yet, but I will go soon.
It is a weird feeling, right? To somehow be a spokesperson for something that you haven't seen. So to your earlier point, go make up your own mind.
Mm-hmm.
It's crucial. It's very, very important.
Yeah. So after that, I went on my own to Oaxaca, and funny thing is, I went into several palenques, distilleries, and when somebody took me to Sombra, and when I got there, I see John, which is one of the founders, and he goes like, "Hey, I know you." Like, "Yeah, I know you too." Like, I used to wait on him at the oyster bar.
No way.
But he never told me that he had a mezcal brand, and I never told him I liked mezcal. So that was crazy. And then he said, "Oh, Andres, we're gonna start building our brand in Guadalajara too. So like, would you like to work for us?" I was like, "Yeah."
What year is this that we're talking?
2 years and a half ago.
2.5 years ago. Wow. So, you know, this is the thing. I meet a lot of people from brands, and I've met a lot of brand founders as well. And so when I got to sit down with Richard, thanks to Travis, obviously Travis knows everybody in the whole world. Apparently, no matter where I am, he's always like, "Oh, you go meet this person, like Spain, wherever." Right? But the thing about him is he seemed so kind, and he seemed so in touch with the human condition, what people go through, and he was an ex-skater too in Arizona. Do you know that?
No.
Yeah, dude, he was a skater growing up too. Sommelier, like kind of everything that he wanted to do. But it really set a really interesting foundation for how things would feel with Sombra. The brand, how the people were treated. And a lot of times you don't necessarily get that when you go up the ladder, if you will.
Yeah.
So when you started working with the brand, how did you feel about them and how they embraced you and how they cared for the people at the palenques making the mezcal?
Well, I was amazed and happy to have such a story to share and be part of this. I mean, I think we all of us got laid to the to these environmental issues that we have right now, taking care of the planet.
Because you're like, is this really going to be that big a deal? No one's going to care about mezcal, right? But then they do.
But yeah, like everything they've done at our palenque, we're very happy that we can have our own palenque, and we don't go around showing off and saying, "No, we rock. We are the ones who are making things right." Like, no, we're not like that. We actually, our doors are open, and we want everybody to come and see how they can get rid of their waste or making a better impact on the environment.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is great. I have lots of things to say, and besides not abandoning the traditions of how to make artisanal mezcal. So
how do you, one of the things, and this is not a Sombra commercial, but it was the first time it was brought to my attention because Richard was talking about this, using the spent agave to make bricks to heat. How has this process kind of evolved since you've been with Sombra?
Well, we had to have bigger room. We had we had a room in our palenque, and then we have to move to a bigger spot because they were evolving. First they were using a machine to make the bricks, and we used to give them away to the Matatelan community. But then, luckily we found this group of architects that they explained to us how to get rid. I mean, they knew how to get rid of the waste
Mm-hmm.
and make something useful with the vinasse or vinasse
Yeah.
and the fibers, and just to add dirt and making 4 times more resistant adobe bricks. So nowadays, these people has been building. Well, if we've through volunteering, we've been building houses in the Sierra Mije, which is an indigenous region that they lost around 4,000 houses in the in the earthquakes
Oh, wow.
2 years ago, and they're completely forgotten from the government. Like nobody's doing anything for them.
Yeah.
So that's how it's been evolved, right? Like we are helping people who doesn't have resources to rebuild what they've lost. So that's pretty cool. Like everybody that goes to the Palenque, they want to see, and everybody tells me all the time, hey, when are you having another volunteering program? We want to go help. We're going to go help. So I think it's a fantastic thing that I hope all more brands can do this kind of stuff too, you know?
Yeah. Do you know, obviously overforesting or, over harvesting rather, it's a really, really big concern for people that love mezcal, but the people that haven't yet come into the category, they don't even know. I mean, mezcal can and often tastes different now than it did 8 years ago because of unripe agave being harvested and made from mezcal, whatever, right? Just because you gotta get it done. Right?
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
Get the thing done. We need to sell it. But what does Sombra have in place in terms of, now we know about the bricks and reducing waste, which is an amazing thing, and basically helps all the waterways, right? Allows them to still be usable for everybody else in the village, which I think is a really important thing. But in terms of replanting, are there certain strategies that you guys use?
Yeah, of course we have to, in our fields, we have to leave 20% of our agaves to develop the quiote.
Oh, so 20%. That's great.
Yeah, otherwise you're lost in the future. The natural evolution of the plant, you won't have
Yeah, you're right.
an evolution.
Well, and it's susceptible. Single virus, right, or single fungus will kill
Exactly.
all of the agave. So
And your neighbors too.
yeah, right. That's probably the best point. Is you don't realize like everything is so interconnected. And this is in Matatlan. Is that where you guys are?
We are in Matatlan. That's where our Palenque is, which, for the ones who don't know, it's the world capital of mezcal.
Mm-hmm.
I think most of the production comes from there.
Yeah.
But you gotta know where to go if you want to go buy mezcal there, because the reputation that Matatlan has, right?
Yeah.
So, but our fields are like an hour and a half away, and from our Palenque, San Juan and San Luis del Rio. But yeah, in terms of the agave, like if we don't have decent sugar bricks content, we can't make mezcal. We can make good quality mezcal. So sometimes you have to wait and for your agaves to mature. You can't if you want to make a good mezcal and have a good consistency. You can be making mezcal with whatever agave you find or you buy or like whatever.
Right, which is what you see, right? In Matatlan too. I think more than perhaps in some other places, but it's becoming a larger problem. But so you guys introduced this. I'm thinking this goes back 2008, 2009. Is that when Sombra kind of came to be? When the first bottles were coming into America? Or is it much sooner than that?
I think 2006.
Oh, it's even earlier.
Yeah.
That's unheard of almost, right? Like to think about how early that is in this whole evolution of mezcal. But so for the original, the first mark, which is the Esperin, this is I'm thinking 43, 45% ABV? 45?
45, 90 proof, 45 ABV. We'll have some more of this.
There you go.
We're drinking mezcal as we speak.
We have really a lot at our disposal at the moment. So this is a really beautiful moment to talk about this. But this is, so these are some things I didn't know.
Dishbe.
It was a polite thing, probably. But single palenque or multiple palenques?
No, it's only one palenque.
Multiple mezcaleros or?
We have two maestros that they run. I mean, like everybody who works in the palenque, they get their hands into everything.
Right.
But the ones who run the distillery and define the flavor profile are Wilfredo and Pablo, who, if you get to the Palenque,
Yeah.
you'll see them, you'll meet them there, and they'll be happy to explain you all the parts of our process. So it's them two running, but everyone who's there, like they do everything.
That's great because it feels like I know there's a community of agave, but it feels like for the brand itself, there's a community, right? It's not just hierarchical and like you go do this and you go do this. Like everybody, I think, has got a piece of the passion that they get to kind of carry. Because I want to share something with you that was interesting to me, and the way I think is relatively logical. But there's one thing that never came to mind to me. And I won't tell you what brand it is, but I don't even have to.
No.
But a single Palenque has a style, and it usually is very consistent. If to your point, when you're saying we're not letting this agave go, but this one will let go, but the rest of this has to grow, mature. But I never thought about the concept of a single village, right? Somehow I just figured these villages are quite large depending on where it is. So you could have 10 Palenques, you could have 20 Palenques. It just depends. And so when I started thinking about that concept of perhaps one of the mezcals that set a real big standard for how people consume mezcal, that's got to be vastly. I wouldn't go as far as to say it's disrespectful, but it's kind of like you're playing guitar too loud. Go sit down, right? Like everybody has their own voice. But I think there's a place for blends like that, and I see it being kind of maybe a future with Union being a big blender. Do you think one method is better over the other?
I think mezcal is so magical that you can find different flavor profiles, and even between batches you can find different flavors. And I think it would be really boring if every bottle of mezcal would taste the same. So like I think that answers the question, right? I think so
that's a really good way to answer it, is that if you like that, cool. If you don't like that, there's something for you there too, right? But Sombra 100% single Palenque.
Yeah, sí. Everything comes from there.
Which is
from the same place.
What do you tell somebody because it's very cost effective? Like this bottle is really reasonable. The Espadín, right, at 90 proof. What do you tell people that are new to mezcal? What does Sombra bring to them?
Oh,
because this is a little bit, it's a little bit like Andres. You can go through the sales pitch. I want to see how you think about it.
Well, I always tell people, like, maybe you will feel that it's a little bit aggressive because it's high proof. It's a flavor profile that it's defined for people who like mezcal and they can keep sipping. And when you're making a cocktail, which I like mezcal cocktails, but for 100%, I think the best way to drink mezcal is neat. And I tell them that try it neat. If you don't like it, try it in a cocktail, and you will start understanding the flavors because it's high proof. So when you're making a cocktail with Sombra, the flavors won't vanish, the agave and the little bit smokiness. We try to find a balance so it's not that smoky. We actually we use a specific wood, certified Mexican oak.
Oh,
we
good.
could say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So something that sometimes people don't talk about is how much wood it takes to cook, because this is all earthen pit. So the one thing you need to heat up that earth and stone is a bunch of wood. So better traceability with this kind of wood.
Oh, sí. Traceability. That's a beautiful word. Actually.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Because a lot of people, they say they get wood from places and they just cut down a forest just so they could eat the mezcal. But you guys are using a certified type of Mexican oak, which is a really important thing. What's that process? I mean, so much wood, right? To even use one cook.
Yeah, and the thing is, that Mexican oak, it burns slower, and so is the one that we decided was the best to have a balanced smoky flavor. So I think mesquite, for example, if you drink mezcal made with mesquite, it will taste very smoky or more burnt, maybe.
Sure.
So,
do you guys use cedar at all for cedar? Have you heard? We hate it in Texas.
Cedar?
It's a type of tree. Yeah, it's really, really dense wood, and it gives everybody terrible allergies.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. I never heard of cedar, so I don't think so.
Yeah, there's potentially another name for it, but so easy going. Not too smoky, right?
Sales wise, yeah, and sip after sip, you'll start understanding more and more the flavors. It'll warm you up in the in the first sip, and maybe you feel like, oh my god, it's so strong. But once you start sipping and sipping, you start to get it more and loving it. And it's great to open appetite. I always explain that too. It's good for pairing with some food, not with all of.
Something salty. Excuse me, like a nice dried cheese, or
for example,
would be really nice. Yeah.
Some cooked seafood also.
Ooh, yeah.
Not spicy food, otherwise it will the alcohol will make everything spicier.
Yeah.
But and also it's great for cocktails too. So it works in cocktails. It works in as an after lunch, after dinner drink. If you have
during lunch drink. Let's be honest, Andres.
if you have mal del puerco, as they say in Mexico, that you're so stuffed, you had a lot of food, you had a bunch of tacos, and you're like, oh my god, I can breathe. Like you can have a mezcal and you'll be back to life.
A digestive.
See,
right? So
it'll soothe you in perfectly, and it's fantastic also for the last course, which is the party, getting drunk and getting magical, as we say. Because mezcal will get you magical. I mean, mezcal will definitely make you talk, make you awake you, and of course, if you abuse, it can mistreat you.
Sure.
But just if you do this combination, which is my favorite couple, it's mezcal,
cocoa and mezcal,
mezcal and water on the side. You wake up like no hangover at all the next day. That's why I also got involved in this, because I couldn't believe how all the benefits when you're drinking mezcal. Like, I don't want to sound like a mezcal preacher, but
no, but I get what you. I mean, I've talked to many writers, in fact, about the effects of mezcal versus Scotch or bourbon, and their moods, the prolific nature of their writing and their creativity varies vastly between what they're drinking. Hemingway was always drinking bourbon, right? Like those deep things. But if it was mezcal, maybe he would have been a little bit lighter and brighter a writer. It's hard to say. Do you said you don't play any instruments, but do you write? Do you sing, anything like that?
No. In my house there were lots of instruments, and I tried to play them. I wasn't any good, so I decided to leave that to my brothers who are specialists. They all play instruments and sing and everything. But no, I do listen to a lot of music all the time. Yeah. And probably my favorite activity is to go to a concert. That's that's unbeatable.
It's a great point. Yeah, I love that. And I think that, again, mezcal has that kind of rich tapestry of colors and flavors. So I had heard about this just today, in fact. So we're sipping this Tobala, which is a personal gift. And as we all know, it's a really nice gift, a beautiful bottle, 1.5 liters. So it's a specific it's a specific thing, right, of this Tobala. But I was
unique,
super unique. And I actually am glad that the glass is so big, because it just gets better and better with age. So if you're true mezcal collectors or hunters, if you will, seek these bottles out, right?
Yeah, and put them in the dark.
Put them in the dark. It's a lot of glass. It's like
yeah, you can age mezcal in glass in the dark, and it will evolve and will give you different flavors throughout time.
And that's one of the great things too. Is as we evolve, people are never twice the same from day to day. Mezcal is similar, right? But I didn't know that there was a new ensemble that was out.
Oh yeah, we're actually very excited.
So this is
going back to sales.
No, but I mean, we were talking about Tepestate, and we're drinking a Tobala, and this is a blend of just those two, or is there Espadín as well?
No, it's just 61% Tepextate, which takes 18 to 30 years to mature. This is a 25-year-old Tepextate. It's 61% of that, and 39% of Tobala, which takes around 12 years to mature. And, mezcal in the history used to be like mezcaleros would get all their agaves, no matter what agave would be.
Right, yeah, and just to make a batch, whatever. Yeah.
This is my mezcal. They wouldn't tell you it has this, and this. Like, that didn't matter back in the day. But in this case, we cooked Tepextate on one side and the Tobala on the other side.
Oh, you cooked it separate?
We cooked it separate.
Oh, no kidding. Did you distill the bagasse together?
Yeah. The traditional way of fermenting and distilling with fibers. Bagasso.
So that's a bagasso, thank you. Mm-hmm. So this is a distillate of both. That's crazy. Because, here's something that was kind of always confusing for me. Because you think about Scotch, blended Scotch, right? It was all made separate. And then you just go and you blend it together for the right profile. But this was cooked separate, but distilled together, or distilled separate then blended?
Distilled separate too.
Okay, thank you. All
Cooked
right.
and distilled separate, and then we looked for the right ratio to make the flavor profile that we wanted.
That's exciting. I love that concept because some other brands are starting to utilize Scotch kind of blending,
Mm-hmm.
and that sounds good. If a certain producer does, or a certain plant tastes like this, and a certain plant tastes like this, sometimes combined they're greater than they ever are by themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
When was this available? It's available now, but is it relatively new?
Yeah, it's I think it's February that we started coming out with it. Or
Oh wow.
But not in Texas. We didn't get it in Texas.
We don't get it here. Oh, just a month ago.
Oh yeah, I don't know exactly with it in each state when it was available, but it's a 2000 limited edition bottle.
Just 2000 old?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh man.
So you better get your hands into it.
Well, so let's try this because what I would think is it's an evolution of the original product, right? The Espadin, as I've kind of revisited it, really nice. And there's this just toasty caramel note that I really like that's kind of supporting everything else. It's not too acidic. It's certainly not cheesy and lactic, which we were talking before recording.
Mm-hmm.
It's not something I really like, But this is really, really, it makes me change my perception about what it's not but maybe well priced mezcal can be.
Mm-hmm.
Because the other stuff that's out there does not taste like this. It tastes rocky and cheesy and stuff like that.
Uh-huh. This is actually, it's a still proof, and it's 51.6 ABV, which is like 102, 103 proof.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
So
How do you feel about that one?
I'm very happy with the final result.
Well, the bottle is beautiful too.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys know how much roughly it is in retail? $199. Oh shit! I should probably choose this bottle more carefully, huh? Well, just you can tell by this enclosure, right? This is beautifully made. Is it sterling silver or stainless silver at the top? Something really nice. I mean, you can hear it, right?
It's heavy, as you can tell.
Super heavy.
Heavy metal.
It is.
Actually, it is. We were really happy because we, like every time we introduce
You hear
Sombra.
it, like that's all right. But I'm not gonna break it. That's a good.
Yeah. We introduce Sombra to people, they go like, oh, you don't do anything but Espadin? Like, we want to try other stuff. And like, because we are sustainable and we talk about sustainability all the time, we don't want to mess with the wild world of agaves.
Yeah.
So in this case, they are wild Tepexate and wild tobalas, but in return, we planted from seed
Oh wow.
20,000 tobala plants in our palenque that then they will have to, after 2 years, we'll have to put them in the fields.
Mm-hmm.
So we are giving back the land way more than what we've used to make this special blend.
Where does that ethos or where does that principle come from to say we're gonna have to give back to the land? Is that just the culture of Sombra? Is that something from Richard, John, or just?
It's our mentality. I don't know what's the right word, but
paradigm. Like there's a couple words for it, but yeah.
Yeah, it's nuestro lema.
No, so what is it?
Nuestro lema.
Nuestro lema.
Yeah, like I don't know the word in English.
I like that word though. I've got a Spanish tutor now, and I'm studying every day and doing stuff, and so I'm trying to listen to every single word. But it's funny. I mean, I got that from meeting Richard, right? That it was I don't know, man. It's a humble company. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, down to earth.
Independent, humble company.
Totally independent. So one of the things, and we have one other market that we'll talk kind of about the future of mezcal, but there's been a lot of movement with the brand itself. It seems like there's been a lot of expansion lately. I don't exactly know if this is, if you guys had a little more success lately where you can break into more markets and all of that.
Yeah, I think our success is because we have not talking about competition or talking about other brands, but I think it's because we keep making 90 proof mezcal, 45 ABV.
Yeah, thank you for that, by the way. No, seriously.
Yeah, I hate that if we have to make lower proof and watered down and not having all these flavors, so real mezcal flavors. So I think that's why, and being steady on the market, that's also why we've been successful. And also, like, when people comes and sees what we're doing, they fall in love with our processes and our brand. And we also, like, every tour that I have to do in Oaxaca, because I go to Oaxaca like once a month, we also show them. We don't take them only to Sombra, like we take them to other palenques.
That's great.
To show them how you can get things done right also, and other to experience, to give them a whole agave education, a whole mezcal experience. And then we take them around mezcalerias and make them drink almost everything we can till they pass away. But it's like I am probably like me and Paulo are more in charge of that, of the touring.
Yeah.
And we are the only last ones going to bed.
Well, you got a very important job to do.
Yeah, educate them. It's
That's
beautiful.
right. And keep everybody on, keep moving forward, keep them asking questions, keeping them engaged, but at the same time trying all of these beautiful and different flavors. So this is great because we're talking about the Espadín. It's 90 proof, and it creates a very nice, accessible, in terms of Black Album Metallica. Okay? Like, you get it. You can sing along to a metal song. Really? You can? Like, wherever I'm in Rome, like, this stuff makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But this is taking us to Master of Puppets.
Sí.
Tempestate and the Tobala, right? Because there's so much more going on here. Not to say the Espadín isn't very rewarding, because it is. It's very satisfying. But you're getting every bit of flavor here. I'm getting chocolate back from that Tempestate. I'm getting this interesting acidity, almost like a brine, but not salty like vinegar, which is really, really nice. But everything's super in balance. So where does this come into play with the people that love mezcal? How do you bring them into this ensemble?
I would say, like, if they want to, I mean, they're used to Espadín because it's the thing that you can find the most in the market.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can find lots of different flavors. I always talk about Karwinski, for example, which I hate doing favorites, but they're probably my favorites,
Really?
the Karwinskis. But it's something else that they have to try no matter what, to understand more what you can get about with mezcal.
Yeah.
By distilling other plants, other types of agave.
Absolutely. Because if you only heard the one song on the radio, you may not actually know how the band is. And if you've only had an Espadín, especially if you've only had an Espadín at 80 proof, you really don't know what agave is capable of. And the flavor here is really, really beautiful. And so Texas just got it. I mean, 2,000 bottles is not going to go very far, is it?
No. So hopefully, people, I mean, our fans can get.
Yeah. That's
like,
good.
if we translate it to music,
yeah, sure.
our fans can get to try.
They're gonna buy the shirt, the VIP pass.
Yeah, yeah. It's like when you listen to this album and you know the hit. I mean, you before listening to the album, you get the hit, and you wanna listen to the whole album. There's our ensemble.
That's exactly it. Really, really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and besides, it evolves. I mean, if you in a few more minutes, you'll get this tropical fruit flavor, more like banana, I'd say, and it's beautiful. I mean, like, and every palate and every nose is different, though.
Of course,
and that's the beauty
of
this industry.
In the States, I don't know if you've noticed, but we're not really getting along very well. There's people arguing all the time. There's protests happening, and it's because people don't want to admit that they changed, and they don't want to admit that it's okay if we're different. We don't have to all be right. So in a way, I feel mezcal is a very big symbol, a metaphor for allow it to change, and what you think is reality may not, in fact, be the case. You know, so this is the thing. I romanticize mezcal because I think sociologically it's a really important thing. I think creatively it is as well. Something I've seen, this is kind of the last bit of topics I wanted to talk to you about. Barrel proof whiskey, barrel selections from Elijah Craig, as we're actually, we're in the Austin Shaker office, but they have a certification of an Elijah Craig barrel, which is a beautiful barrel they picked out. That's becoming really big business for bourbon. Angel's Envy's doing things, all the big guys eventually are getting into saying, oh, you want to buy a barrel of things. So I'm finally starting to see that with mezcal. They're in Texas, of course, we're so close to the border, it's easy for shipping and stuff for us. Real Minero just had a batch that dropped that Kiki and David here at Thousand Chica, they picked that up, right? So like it's becoming a thing. So from what I understand, this is a piece of Sombra's thinking about this barrel selection or batch selection as well. Is this something in the future for you guys?
Yeah, kind of, because there's a market who's demanding it, and same thing happened with tequila, right? Like you've been saying before, they wanted to catch the attention of the brandy and whiskey drinkers into tequila. So then it's your choice if you want to drink it aged or unaged. Yeah, it'll be your choice. In my personal opinion, I love the blanco oven. No,
it's already pretty complex.
It's already But if it's something that's gonna help the category to grow and people getting more into like, oh, now I like mezcal. Welcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And you get some strange. I was in Guadalajara actually at Amores, and they had a Sauterne finished, which is Sauterne is a dessert wine, right? A French dessert wine. And mezcal, and you taste it together, and you're thinking this is improbable that this would ever work, but it was delicious. So there's always those possibilities, always those innovations. You start with the espadín, and then you blend these more nuanced and flavorful agaves together in the ensemble. And so it looks like, and we'll try this after we're done recording, but it looks like you guys are actually resting in some bourbon casks. Is that right?
Yeah, but it's not gonna be like massive.
No,
it's just to catch the attention of some consumers that they want to try Sombra aged, right?
Yeah.
And there's a market for us. Like I said before, it's demanding it, so we'll give it to them.
You got to play the hits, right?
Yeah, but we'll always encourage them to try the real deal.
Of course. Yeah, I think it's smart to pivot and move in different directions and things, and sometimes these happy accidents become spectacular. Like that, again, before we're recording, we're talking about Sergio Mendoza and like Dan Fulano, Extra Añejo. How does that work? Right? It just somehow makes so much sense. But many Extra Añejos, they don't taste that good. So it's fun to experiment,
Yeah, I mean, I love also like aged in glass mezcal, like we were saying before.
Yeah.
And as long as it has agave flavor, I think it's fantastic.
Yeah.
Like it has to have agave flavor. Otherwise, you're drinking something else.
Absolutely.
So I really congratulate some brands that they can pull that out, still making añejo or extra añejo and still having that agave flavor. I think it's fantastic.
Magic. Magic. So I got 2 questions left for you.
Right.
The first is, we've been sipping this because the Tobola for me in that moment where Travis and Richard were in my hotel room and we're exchanging and talking. Let's talk about that. So you're sipping this Sombra Tobola anywhere in the world, okay? Any mezcaleria, your house, wherever, doesn't matter. And you can have a drink in a conversation with anybody, living or deceased. Who might you like to sit and enjoy a mezcal and talk with?
Anywhere in the world?
Anywhere in the world. The location is not necessarily as relevant as who might you have a conversation with.
Oh, I would say probably like somebody from the industry.
Yeah?
Somebody who could appreciate it and like, for example, I just been to Argentina and people who hadn't been drinking mezcal or just drunk a little bit, tried it only a little bit, and they were crazy about it. So I would say that probably somebody from the industry, like a sommelier.
Yeah.
Definitely somebody into the wine world to try this, or like somebody who likes spirits, who is fond of spirits and they never tried mezcal before, and maybe Tobola wouldn't be the introduction, but for sure they will be like, well, I can't understand this right away.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like hanging out with Dave Mustaine?
With Einstein?
Dave Mustaine?
Oh, Dave Mustaine. I would love to, yeah. Or like if we talk about, probably Phil Anselmo would be.
Oh, dude.
I would love to have some mezcal with
Can
Phil
you
Anselmo.
please make that happen? And I will take pictures. I'll record. I don't care. I'll record the conversation. But he's so chill.
Really?
All the stuff I've seen about him, he's such a voracious singer, but in terms of just, he's like super chill guy. And they're from Dallas, right? So just a few hours from here. Brilliant. So next stop for you, you're hosting a dinner here in Austin.
Yeah, it's Shore Raw.
Shore
Shore
Grill.
Bar and Grill.
Oh, Shore Bar and Grill. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pairing dinner with mezcal neat and cocktails, so they can tell the differences.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that too.
What do you have in what are a few notes you'd like to touch on this evening in your dinner?
Definitely production,
Yeah.
sustainability. Not like sip, don't shoot. Sip,
Yeah.
don't shoot.
Yeah.
For sure.
What is it? Tomar con respeto?
Sí,
Yeah.
tomar con respeto. El mezcal
Respeto, sí.
de a besitos, despacito y con respeto.
Ah.
Siempre.
Well, it's brilliant, man. When are you back in Texas next? Any plans?
Hopefully soon. I
Yeah.
have to go to Chicago. Got to go to where else? Orlando.
Oh, cool.
And I'm coming in October actually to Austin.
Oh, yeah.
I just remembered. And also Oaxaca.
Yeah.
And also New York again too.
Amazing. It's really an old brand. A lot of people don't realize it's had this steady organic success, and it's really no mystery to me, like meeting someone like you, that people are going to like the brand even more. So well done on that.
Nice.
Bien hecho. And I can't wait to talk to you soon. I'll see you in Oaxaca, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Yeah, I'm there
All the time.
pretty often. Yeah, so also in Guadalajara.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'll be there in February for sure.
Excellent.
Hang out with Esteban. I'll say hello.
Nice.
Andres, thanks so much. For
Thanks to
hanging out.
you. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise. Take care. So there we have it. What do you guys think of Mr. Andres Portela of Sombra Mezcal recently in Austin, Texas? You know, I try a lot of espadines. There's lots of new brands that come into the market that, of course, are espadines. They're inexpensive. But revisiting the Sombra, the original espadine, it is really, really good. And, you know, I try not to use the show as some kind of advertisement or some kind of commercial, but it's worth checking out, so you guys should check it out. And Andres is a great guy, ex-skater. We didn't really talk about that. Metalhead at heart and pure mezcal lover. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how excited you are that HBO dropped 2 shows early for Labor Day weekend, or if you're thinking, man, I'm going to keep trying to educate on Scotch mezcal and everything else, but when will it be too much? Please keep dancing.